Let's talk about Rachel, Animorphs, and the weight of well-done war stories. So way back in June, I made a video where I mentioned Rachel, I think after Superman. People asked me to make a video about her, and I just never got to it. I almost included her in my year-end recap, and then I decided that she deserved her own video because she is one of my favorite characters of all time. So we're talking about Rachel from Animorphs. In case you don't know, Animorphs is a middle grade or YA series from when I was a kid about these kids who transform into animals to fight an alien invasion, right? The books were very, very maligned because the covers were like a little bit goofy. It was the 90s and like early aughts, but like they were incredible. If you read them, you fully understand that these were very, very serious books about the effects of war and trauma on a young mind in a way that took it very, very seriously. At the time that these books were written, we had been through wars. We were about to enter into the Iraq War. Like there was stuff that was happening on a geopolitical level that was just really affecting the author, K.A. Applegate, and she decided to really tackle this issue. I think other series attempt to do this. Harry Potter is a series that ends with a war. The Hunger Games deals with revolution. Avatar deals with like a little bit of a war towards the end. But at its core, Animorphs very specifically is about watching these characters curdle from the weight of their own decisions. I love the second image, Society of Animorphs and Harry Potter swapped pop culture impacts, only because in Harry Potter, the characters obviously commit very heinous acts, right? Hermione kidnaps Rita Skeeter and then like never talks about it again. She obliviates her parents and never talks about it again. In the epilogue, they literally end with all is well. They are not dealing with the psychological trauma that they have taken on, or the author was not ready to do that. I think the Hunger Games ends in a very different place where we see Katniss is very sort of traumatized by what happened to her. Rachel is one of my favorite characters in all of fiction because she is sort of like a Buffy archetype where she is a girly girl who in the 90s, like you had tomboys and you had girly girls. It was a very different time. But she is a girly girl who is still very much like thrust into this world of the war and becomes a weapon, right? She is a character who is absolutely afflicted, curdled, damaged beyond belief because she revels in the damage and the violence in a way that none of the other characters do, right? Each of the Animorphs serves a specific purpose on the team. Marco is the brain, Cassie is the heart, Jake is the leader. Rachel is a living weapon. In like 2021 and 22, we get the David trilogy where there is this very, very pivotal moment where David, a kid who sort of becomes a extra Animorph, becomes evil immediately, attacks one of the other Animorphs, and Jake, Rachel's cousin, says, get Rachel, right? When they are presented with something horrific or something very bad that needs to be done, their first instinct is to get Rachel. Rachel is the character that will do what needs to be done. And I think in the Animorphs fandom, there is this idea that Rachel doesn't feel bad about it, and that's Marco. There's a very stark difference where Marco does ruthless things and doesn't care, right? He is completely conscienceless when it comes to these things because he thinks the right thing done for the wrong reason is still the right thing, whereas Rachel does the thing because she's the only one out of everyone else on the team that will do it, but she feels really badly about it. As we move towards the end of the series, her entire arc is about realizing that she has been permanently changed by the war. She loves like exterminating people. She loves fighting. She loves violence, and it makes her crazy. If you do clear display, you can see the image that I attached at the bottom, but it's Tom and Jake speaking to each other. Tom is Rachel's cousin, Jake's brother, and he says, wars aren't won with clean hands, right? The Animorphs, I'm trying not to spoil in case any of you ever decide to read these books, but the Animorphs continue to make these decisions that like make them worse and worse versions of themselves. Rachel is the only one that's clear-headed enough to say, okay, I'm being fundamentally changed by this war and I feel bad about it, but I'm not going to change. And that's why, spoiler, at the end, I think Applegate does something interesting where she is like, Rachel is the only character that's not allowed to make it out alive. Because over 52 books, we have watched Rachel become bloodthirsty, violent, sort of like entering this blind rage where she's just like exterminating people, attacking, like jumping into situations ruthlessly and blindly. I remember in some of the books, she's just like jumping into action without waiting for like orders from Jake or Marco. There is this idea that like this character has become so fundamentally altered from their original purpose that they cannot exist without the war, right? Rachel is the personification of the war. She's a personification of a weapon. And so she cannot exist in this context that is not the war. Katniss is a revolutionary who was thrust into the revolution. Collins, very specifically, makes her not the one who's leading these charges and not the one who's making a lot of decisions. Stuff sort of happens to Katniss up until Mockingjay. In Harry Potter, the characters are dealing with Harry being a chosen one, which is a different call altogether. This is something very different. It's like if in the middle of the series, Hermione decided to just start like exterminating people and loving it, the arc of the series would be very different, right? And that's what makes it interesting that these are books for children, and one of the characters is like, no, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna like get rid of everyone and you can't tell me anything. And her teammates are afraid of her. By the end of the series, everyone is afraid of her. And that makes her interesting because, similar to Marco, who's one of her narrative foils, Rachel knows that she has to get through the war. She has to like do what needs to be done. She has to end it. And she feels badly about what it's doing to her and her personal relationships, where now the only thing she can think about is like the moral weight of having exterminated all of these people and all of these like aliens. But at the same time, she's like, I will never stop because this is my purpose. This is what I was put on this earth to do. And so you have this tension with Cassie, her other narrative foil, who refuses to exterminate anyone and is like, we must protect the Yeerks, we have to save people. And Rachel is like, no, I'll never do that. This is what I'm going to do. And this is why she did not make it out of the series. Rachel's story is complex but ultimately tragic. She's a character that's meant to show us how you can lose yourself in the horrors of war, and her cousin Jake are both of these characters who shoulder these immense burdens because of the moral weight of all of the things that they do. And because I probably won't do another one of these videos, and a lot of people don't make it to the end, I also always think about, like, the last moment that Rachel has haunts me. She is visited by the sort of god of the Animorphs universe, and she asks him, did I do good, right? Was I good? Did everything that I do matter? And the very last words in her book are like, you were brave, you were good, you mattered. She ultimately understands as she's exiting the world that she did the things for the right reason. Even though she felt badly about them and she knew that they were fucked up and wrong, she still knows that she served her purpose, and like it just makes it so much sadder.